Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where in the world you're joining us from. My name is Kelly Igorova. I am the Assistant Dean of Graduate Admissions here in the College of Engineering at Northeastern University. I see many familiar faces. I know that we've spent most of our mornings together for those of you who have joined for the other Engineers Week events this week. So good to see many familiar names and individuals joining multiple sessions. Today's session is about the co-op experience. This is such an amazing and a unique opportunity. We have a wonderful lineup of our current students who are studying at Northeastern, many in your program of interest, and they will walk through their current experience on co-op. And the way that it will go today is we'll do a brief round of introductions. Each of them will talk about their individual co-op experiences, and then we'll have a Q&A. Feel free to drop your questions into the chat. Again, today is solely focused on the co-op experience, so we won't be talking about program-specific questions. However, our ambassadors would love to connect with you afterwards. They run WhatsApp groups, they're on email, they're on Facebook, Instagram, I don't know, everything. TikTok, LinkedIn, they're everywhere. So go find them. They would love to connect with you. And if you do have program specific questions, we will be hosting our Wonder Week event in April. So just mark your calendar. In the late March timeframe to look up Northeastern University Wonder Week, and we'll have a landing page, and you can sign up for your program of interest, multiple programs of interest, where you'll actually have an opportunity to hear more details about your program from the program directors, the faculty, as well as our wonderful student ambassadors. And with that, I am going to hand it over to each one of them to introduce themselves. Isabella, why don't we start with you?
Everyone, I'm Isabella. I'm currently in my final semester of my graduate year in the Masters of Engineering Management program. I completed this through Northeastern's +1 program, so I also did my bachelor's in chemical engineering at Northeastern, where I graduated in 2025.
Wonderful. Great. Mallory.
Hey everyone, my name's Mallory. I'm a fourth year chemical engineering PhD student here on the Boston campus.
Awesome. And Karthik?
Hi all, my name is Karthik. I'm doing my master's in information systems here at Arlington campus.
Perfect. And Cassidy?
Hi everyone, my name is Cassidy. I'm getting my master's in electrical and computer engineering leadership. That's also with the Gordon Institute of Engineering Leadership. And my background is in electrical engineering.
Wow, what an amazing representation today. Thanks so much, guys, for being here. We've got +1s, we've got PhDs, we've got masters, and we've got Karthik studying in the Global Campus Network. So this is great. Mallory, do you mind walking us through a few slides on your co-op experience?
Yeah, definitely. So my co-op experience is a little different than the traditional one because mine is through the Leaders program, which is specific to PhD students and focuses a little bit on a few different things, including like project management. So skill sets that are really helpful for your PhD experience. Like the co-op program, you need to take one course before you are go on your placement. It can be taken in tandem or right before, and that's the class listed right there, PhDL 760. Most people take in their second year or later. It can really be taken anytime. And it's a bunch of really great opportunities to learn about professional development, how to interview better with giving you the framework of how to answer those kinds of questions of like what's your biggest challenge and things like that. Once you complete your class, you can then match and get a placement. You traditionally submit a resume talking about your preferences to a database. So that could be, I want to work for like a big company. I want to work for a startup. I want to work in like this area. And so you can kind of specify your project interest. And then they have a Teams page. They have a website where you can check on current placements offered, as well as there are two people, Terry and Wendy, who are awesome, where you can, they will also reach out to you directly if a project suits your needs. And then from there, you do rounds of interviews. They can be informal over Zoom or more formal, where you do like a full presentation on your research. So for the next slide. So I was actually matched at Sanofi or Sanofi, I can never remember how to pronounce it, here in Cambridge Crossing, so just right outside the city. I personally had 3 rounds of kind of more like informal chats with my direct supervisor, the person who I would be working directly under, and then the head of like our team of protein engineering. And from there, I was selected. They talked to my advisor, just asking about my wet lab skills. And then I worked there for 4 months, where I did 2 different high throughput characterizations for antibodies, which were completely new techniques to me. I've never done mass spec, I had never done SPR. It was a cool opportunity to just try new techniques because it's very easy on your PhD to get pigeonholed into like one area of like, I only know how to do this. And then from there, I actually got to share my findings, not just with my department, but with like the global mass spec group. So got to talk to people all the way in Belgium, France, Germany. It was a really cool experience, and a lot of networking opportunities at all the different company-wide events and through my supervisor.
That's amazing. Mallory, how did you learn about the Leaders Program?
Um, I don't remember now. I think like the PhD network does a great job of marketing this class. So I think I got some emails, and you can do co-op as PhD or you could do leaders. I like that leaders it's a little, in my opinion, easier to get a placement, because instead of going up against like 700 applicants online, you have like it's you and like up to maybe 5 to 10 people whose resumes are even submitted to these programs. So you get paid your traditional stipend and you maintain your student status, which is really great for like international students. You don't have to use like CPT, OPT. Um, and then if you need to take extra time to graduate, the Leaders Program has like a fellowship fund where you can add that equivalent time. So I was on co-op for 4 months. That means I get an additional 4 months if I need it in funding. So I found out that like through that avenue that it was kind of like an easier sell to my advisor of like, hey, I'm gonna leave for 4 months, but I'm also like financially covered for the 4 months that I'm gone and then 4 months down the road. So I heard about it through like the PhD network and then through word of mouth.
That's very cool. Do you feel like it disrupted your PhD flow at all, or do you feel like the experience just segued directly into your PhD or you added to it?
Yeah. I kind of came to like a good stopping point. I do cancer imaging, so I had wrapped up a pretty big animal study and I was feeling a little just like tired. So I was kind of at the point where I was just going to be doing a ton of data analysis and like writing. So it kind of felt like a natural break point for me to kind of step away from my research, get refreshed, do something different and network. Because I think at this point in my PhD, it's really important. So I started my PhD, the placement right at the beginning of my 4th year. So it was strange coming back and be like, oh, I'm a 4th year. But it was nice because it helped give me some insight to maybe potential career paths that I wasn't super interested in. And so it was like a nice break. Coming back, it was a little bit of a jarring thing to come back to just because in co-op, I only had like 2 set products that I can work in tandem. When I get back, it's like a lot more juggling with coursework and other things like that. I would say it certainly like could potentially add time, but it was time I think I needed to just like try something new, and then come back, kind of reset and refresh, and knowing that I have good they like were offering me a job at that point for when I graduate. So I think taking time away and maybe adding a little time to my PhD is worth it if I can get like really good contacts and potentially a job after it. I figured that was worth me taking the 4 months off.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's like why faculty take sabbaticals, right?
Yeah.
Like reset, refresh the mind, come back with new ideas, new network.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. That's great. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. All right. And here we've kind of gone through all of your takeaways. But this is it's so exciting because I don't think people often associate co-ops with PhDs. And so it's really nice to hear that it is still an option. Not in all cases, right? It always depends on a faculty member in the research. But I do think, like you said, the PhD network, whether it's a co-op or through the Leaders Program or elsewhere, they do such a nice job of supporting the students. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Isabella.
Okay, yeah. So I did my co-op in 2023 during my undergrad. But I was a process engineering co-op at a company called Unicure. They were recently acquired by Jennison, the department I was in manufacturing. But while I was there, we aided in manufacturing the only FDA approved cure for hemophilia B, which was pretty awesome. Um, so I worked on that as a co-op. We had just received it while I was there. Um, and I guess before I hop into like more of what I did there, a brief overview of the interview process. I applied to about 20 co-ops. I did about 3 or 4 interviews. For my interview at Unicure specifically, I did 3 30-minute interviews back to back with my direct manager, a member on the team, and my manager's manager. Um, and yeah, I found out pretty quickly within the week that I got the job and I accepted. Um, and so I was on a smaller team of 5 engineers, but we worked with every team in the company. We did a lot of project management. So anything that another team want any piece of equipment or a change in a process, it would kind of go through us. So it was very, very cross-functional, which I loved, different day to day. We did a lot of troubleshooting. I got trained in the clean room gowning and also sterile manufacturing. So that's me gowned up there in that photo. Um, and my biggest project that I led as a co-op, which was really amazing, is I helped expand our manufacturing line to double our product output from 1 batch a week to 2 batches a week, just so that we can meet that new demand now that we got that FDA approval. So that was nice. Like I said, we did a lot of troubleshooting all over the facility. And anytime any piece of equipment would go into alarm, keep in mind this is a GMP environment in biotechnology. So we had a lot of different critical factors going on. So we had a critical monitoring system, and I would just see anytime something was an alarm, I would go and respond to it, figure out what was going on, and document it. I also updated a lot of technical drawings on AutoCAD, piping and instrumentation diagrams. Also worked on a lot of GMP documents like SOPs, standard operating procedures, user requirement specifications, batch records, things like that. And I communicated a lot with external vendors to meet the facility needs based on the projects that people were bringing to our team. And I think the next slide. Yeah. So some highlights of my co-op. I absolutely loved my time at Unicure. Um, as a co-op, I was treated like a fifth member of the team. I wasn't treated like a co-op. I was getting the same types of projects that other members on the team were getting. And my managers were really awesome in ensuring that I was getting different types of experiences within different departments. So I would be in the pilot lab one day, and then I'd be in the manufacturing room the next day, just making sure I was becoming familiar with how all these different moving pieces work together in industry. I also learned a lot about GMP operations in a really heavily regulated industry. So that was awesome. A lot of transferable skills, technical writing and things. And I love the different day-to-day activities. Routines can kind of get a little bit boring sometimes. Obviously, I had my daily responsibilities, including daily stand-up meetings to start the day to explain what we needed to do, if we needed help with anything. But because we were on call a lot and troubleshooting a lot, you couldn't really predict that. You just had to kind of be ready. And other highlights, in a more casual sense, we had Wicked Wednesdays every, I think, first Wednesday of the month. So at about lunchtime, we would all go to a room in the building, and they would bring us lunch and snacks. They would have beer on tap, but I was not 21 yet, so I did not partake. But it was really nice to get to know all the other people within the company in a more casual sense. We play ping pong and have tournaments. The picture there was one of our King's Day celebrations. Since it was a Dutch company, we were just kind of working across seas to celebrate something that our Dutch coworkers were celebrating. And yeah, I just think it was a great culture. There was about 200 people on site, but no matter the level, I was working with directors to help complete projects. Everyone was super willing to help, which I loved. In terms of my takeaways, I learned that I really wanted to pursue roles in the life sciences industry, whether that was biotechnology or pharmaceuticals. I've really loved the regulated environment. I also realized that I love manufacturing roles over lab roles. Working with the different teams, I didn't like how slow lab roles tended to be and routine. I liked working for mid-size and larger companies, which is a really big takeaway as a co-op. And I learned about lean management, which ultimately led me later down the line during my master's program to take a lean concepts class and ultimately get my lean green belt certification, since it would implementing a lean management system while I was on co-op. So that was the first time I had heard of that. And yeah, since I did my co-op during my undergrad, I realized that I wanted to do engineering management MS over a chemical engineering MS. It was more beneficial to becoming a more well-rounded individual and having more of a understanding of the business side of industry rather than only the technical side.
Wow, this is so cool, Isabella. I love that it's a blend of the life sciences with the manufacturing, with the management. Like you got a little bit of everything. It's very, very cool.
Yes, I got very lucky. I loved everything about my co-op.
Do you feel like Northeastern, what you had done up to that point, what semester were you when you had gone on your co-op?
It was a spring semester that I went into my co-op. So I was there January to June.
January to June. And was it your second going into your third semester?
I was a second year, so yes.
Yes. Okay. So do you feel like the courses you had taken at that point prepared you, or this seems like it was super in the weeds of things in the industry?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get an internship in process engineering this summer after my freshman year. So I had an idea of a lot of these things even outside of my classes, but I would definitely say my classes helped prepare me to understand the theory behind a lot of things as I was learning the process. It wasn't like I have no clue what's going on. I was understanding it. It was just actually matching the process to the theory.
Mm.
But as engineers, we kind of get used to doing things like that. So it wasn't too bad of a transition. I definitely say my co-op class helped prepare me a lot for understanding how different industry is versus classes, which I really liked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
All right, Karthik.
Hey all, as I mentioned, I'm doing my master's in information systems from Arlington campus. Next. Uh, yeah, so for my co-op search strategy, I have used multiple websites. I've used AnyWorks, where regular posting of new jobs always happens. I've also used Handshake, LinkedIn, JobRite, AI, and also I attended a couple of events happening around Arlington, DC area here, where I get to network with people, and that helped a lot as well. So the coursework I mentioned here, these courses I feel helped me a lot with my interview preparation, especially courses on program structures and algorithms. So the co-op I worked on was a software engineering co-op, and learning data structures and algorithms definitely helped a lot. And it was for both technical interviews and also helped me understand complex data structures better, which in turn helped me while I was working in the co-op as well. Next slide. Yeah, so I worked as a software engineering co-op at a company called Bracebridge Capital. They are a hedge fund based in Boston, and my role was SDE co-op. So I have worked on many internal tools that help traders perform their day-to-day tasks. I worked on initially when I started working, I was given simple stuff that is very easy to transition from a student to co-op kind of stuff. So I started working on improving the test coverage, of key repositories, and from there I was gradually given. At that point, I understood how all the repositories are working, how every part of the code is working. So then I was given simpler tasks as to build small functionalities, improve existing internal tools. And then a big thing in the I observed in our team was um the issue. Web testing is a big thing. It used to take a lot of time for developers, and I was at the last part of my co-op. I was given the opportunity to work on automating this stuff, and I think that was the bigger task in my co-op experience, and that actually automated most of web testing, and which in turn saves time for all the developers in the future as well. So yeah, next slide. So key takeaways as to how to apply for a co-op would be: keep your resume and LinkedIn profile always interview ready. Whatever projects you work on, whatever courses, certifications you take, keep your profiles updated. And as I mentioned earlier, don't just stick to one platform while applying for your jobs. I would suggest you look across multiple platforms. I mentioned a couple here, but there are multiple platforms which really help. And yeah, again, it's not just about applying, it's about making productive connections. Good networking actually helps. So reaching out to recruiters and having a connection with them, following up with them regularly, things like these do matter. And most of the things that I'm mentioning here were actually covered in the co-op course that I took as part of my master's. So that course helped a lot as well.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Tell me a little bit about what is NU Works and how do students use it?
So AnyWorks is a platform, Northeastern platform. So where regular job for co-ops as well as full-time jobs are being posted there. So students can go to AnyWorks. Student can search whatever category of jobs they're looking for. Let's say I work. I work as a software engineer, so I used to search for software engineering co-ops, data engineering co-ops, something like that in AnyWorks, and you get regularly posted jobs there. You can apply through NUWorks, which is a Northeastern only platform. So you kind of have an edge over there if you find any job there, apart from everyone else in the market. And yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. All right. Our Gordon girl. Go for it, Cassidy.
Hello. Yeah, like it says here, background in electrical, currently pursuing master's in electrical. So my co-op experience was as a sensor engineer at Draper Laboratories. I was actually one of two electrical engineering undergrads hired into this role. We were both brought on to the development of a MEMS-based inertial sensor. For those unfamiliar with Draper Laboratories, um, kind of their bread and butter is developing inertial sensors. So this started with me conducting dynamic testing on the sensor, such as vibrational testing, and I documented testing setups and procedures. So at the beginning of this co-op, they kind of didn't have specific roles in mind for me and the other electrical engineering co-op, um, which was kind of scary, but also freeing in a way that I could choose what I wanted to do there. So I spent the first month doing this testing and acclimating to the culture there. Um, but within month two, I kind of noticed um, a pain point in the testing process where they were using many one-off data processing scripts. So me and with the help of a few full-time employees, we worked on the development of a user interface to streamline this testing process. Um, and this wasn't entirely my idea. Actually, the people who reviewed my resume and interviewed me, they noticed I had a previous MATLAB project on my resume, and that stood out to them. And one of them had actually been thinking of doing this, but they didn't have the skill set or the time at the time. Um, so when they introduced the idea to me, I thought that was a great idea as well. And that was kind of what I worked on for the remainder of my co-op. And within a couple months of that, I was really enjoying the process of doing this project. I really enjoyed the support I was given to pursue this. And there was kind of a mutual, like, they were asking me if I wanted to come back full time. I was asking if there was a position for me to come back full time. And this was a fall co-op, so July to December. By November, I had received a full-time offer to come back, and I happily accepted.
Wow, so cool. You mentioned about MATLAB being on your resume, and it sounds like that was a key marker to you securing your co-op.
Yes.
Did the co-op course that you had taken, the intro to co-op course, did they help you in putting that on your resume and then the framing of it? Tell me about that whole process.
Yeah, so that project was actually from like a first year engineering class, and I did this co-op my senior year, so maybe one would think that that project was too long ago or not recent enough to include, but I think the co-op class really helped me develop my resume. There's definitely a big glow up before and after, and it really taught me how to tailor my resume to what I wanted to do. Because my previous co-op was more in networks engineering, and while I overall enjoyed that co-op, I didn't fall in love with it. So I learned I had to retailer my resume to do something that I really wanted to do. And I remember I really enjoyed that MATLAB project from freshman year, but I hadn't had opportunities to pursue that further. So I definitely highlighted that on my resume. And during my interview process, there wasn't really a technical interview, but he kind of walked through my resume with me and asked me about specific points. And he did specifically ask about that project. He asked why I decided to highlight that. He said that very much stood out to him, and that was something that Draper would find useful.
I think that's so cool. So what I love is that your resume was really an opportunity to focus in on what you wanted to do, right? While also keeping that balance, like I'm sure, Isabella, I'm sure that you saw it when you were applying, is like keeping the balance of showcasing that you're able to take on multiple tasks, especially Cassidy coming in where they hadn't had a role for you, right? So you can take on multiple tasks, but yet you're kind of guiding them and setting some guardrails into what you might want to do. And so it's sort of that fine balance of narrowing the scope while also keeping it broad.
Yeah, for sure. It was kind of like choose your own adventure because the other co-op, he had more like FPGA focused work and he got to do that. So we all like found a niche basically.
I think it's great. And what's amazing is that's also the Northeastern ethos too, right? That was my job coming into Northeastern. I was hired alongside one of my very dear colleagues who still works with me, Kelsey, into the same role. And we were presented with the same thing of like, there's two paths, pick your niche and go with it. And she went one way and I went the other, and it worked out great. And I see that so many times at Northeastern and what our students take out into the real world. So it's amazing that it ends up being something that you really carry with you. Okay, let's see. I think you've gone through some of it, but I'll leave this here for you to add.
Yeah, for sure. So these were kind of big takeaways from the co-op process. So my first point is leveraging your resources. I really valued interviewing in person. The Draper interview wasn't in person, but I had a couple interviews that round that ended up being in person. Um, and even though I decided not to go with those roles, I started undergraduate in 2020. It was like everything was online, and that was kind of what I was used to. And interviewing in person was a little scary at first, but I think it helped me learn how to speak in these interviews and conduct myself a little bit better. Additionally, like we said, using resume reviews and interview prep, specifically the co-op class, I really appreciated being able to have peer reviews on my resumes, see what other people were putting on their resumes, etc. And again, interview prep, in conjunction with the interviewing in person, I think really helped me be able to speak to my skills. Next point is persistence is a strategy. My first cycle, I did 40 applications versus my second cycle, I did 80 applications, which kind of went against what I had been told, where everyone told me the second round would be easier, and I just did not find that to be the case. Um, but you have to control what you're able to control, and I knew that whatever outside factors were at play didn't matter. I just had to um, I had to persist and do what I could do and continue applying, continue taking these interviews and such. Um, But I also think the first cycle maybe went a little smoother because I made more effort to attend career fairs and I ended up getting my first co-op from a career fair. I don't know why I didn't do that the second time, but you live and you learn. And last point is show how you think, not just what you think. Classes definitely prepared me with a baseline of technical skills. They definitely filled up my toolbox. Um, but through these interview processes and now working at Draper full time, I've actually been able to sit in on a number of interviews. I think what's much more important than showing off this toolboxes of yours is showing how you can use those tools. My biggest advice is to like walk through your problem solving process out loud. Because even if you land on the right answer, they can appreciate how you got on the wrong answer, they can appreciate how you got there.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then last bit, habits that scale. So these habits that help me get my co-op are the same habits that make me effective as a full-time employee. So clear thinking builds trust, persistence solves messy problems, and leveraging people accelerates results. I graduated in 2024. I went into full-time work at Draper immediately after. I took a year to work and feel what I wanted to do before deciding to return and pursue a master's. Um, and actually, the beauty of my master's with the Gordon program is that I'm able to do that still at Draper. And Draper has been super supportive, both in allowing me the time to pursue this master's, but also helping pay for it and such. So I think that my co-op was super invaluable and I wouldn't be here without it.
Tell me a little bit more about the Gordon program. We had Amy on our call on Tuesday, and then we had a Gordon alum on the call yesterday. So tell me a little bit about the program, how you got involved in it, and then I love that there's that silver thread coming through with Gordon at Draper.
Yeah. So I actually learned about Gordon from one of my friends who was doing it as a plus one. Um, So without the master's, you can just get your certificate in leadership. That's a year-long program. And those courses also count as graduate level courses. So in her plus one situation, she just needed to do the year of the Gordon program, and that would be considered part of her plus one. For me, I didn't do a plus one. I wanted to take a break to work and decide where I wanted to steer my future, pretty much. Um, but when she told me about the program, it sounded really interesting because you do this leadership program while working full time, and you do a year-long project that kind of acts as like a thesis, and you do that project at your workplace. And the project needs to demonstrate your leadership capabilities, your technical depth, as well as bringing value to your sponsor company. So Draper has been a long-time participant in the Gordon program. So I actually attended an info session that was at Draper, and I was pretty sold on it. So I started speaking to my manager about, is this possible for me? Will I be able to do a project here, have the time? And he was super supportive. He walked me through, gave me a lot of context to reach out to. Um, and I started last fall. I I decided to self-develop a project, which might be a more difficult route because that meant I had to land internal stakeholders. I had to sell people on my idea, um, which was kind of similar to my experience as a co-op, except the co-op I had a little direction. This time it was very much more on my own, which as a full time that makes sense, I think. And now I'm in the spring semester, so still working on developing that project, and it's been an amazing experience so far.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for sharing. We have a ton of questions already coming in the chat, and I know there's going to be more. Let me stop my screen share and then let's open it up here to some of our questions. Karthik, I want to start with you. Can you tell me about how competitive the process was for you and how did you make yourself stand out?
Yeah, it is pretty competitive, I would say, and this is not to scare anyone, but yeah, as I said, working on I would say many software engineers, right, when they're applying for jobs, they pick their niche, what they're expert in, what they're what they want to apply for. Let's say there are people who apply for front-end engineer roles. There are people who apply for only back-end engineer specific roles. There are people who go for networking roles. So I would say pick your niche and then uh, get your resume ready for that particular role. Let's say if you're a front-end engineer, do a couple of projects that highlight your front-end skills. And yeah, that I think will definitely help.
Wonderful. Tell me a little bit about the Intro to Co-op course. Cassidy, did you take the Intro to Co-op course as part of your program? And when did you do that course if you took it?
Yeah, I took that course. It was the semester before I would have started applying to co-ops. So I was on the fall cycle.
Awesome. And tell me about how that course helped. Like, if you had not taken that course, which, by the way, for everyone who's joining this call, the Intro to Co-op course is required. Students usually take it in their first or their second semester. But tell me a little bit, Mallory, maybe you can add here. Did PhD students take that course?
Yes, if you're going to like you can do co-op or you can do leaders. They're just different coursework. Um, Co-op, you're required to find the co-op yourself. Whereas leaders, there are existing partnerships where you apply then kind of like internally. So you get paid, I think most of the time you get paid more in co-op, but you'd come off of student status and then you'd have to like finagle all that. Whereas leaders, you keep to your status and you get paid your traditional stipend. So while you might get paid less, you have an easier time of it. I kind of thought of it as like having like a recruiter or something like that. So um, part of that like money that you would get goes towards like getting a more secure placement that are specific for Northeastern students.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Isabella, you mentioned all of the networking and the opportunities. Can you tell me about the professional network that you built both in preparation to go on co-op and then while you were on co-op?
Yes. So before going on co-op, I was really proactive about reaching out to older students. I went on well, actually at the time I didn't have LinkedIn. I went to my co-op advisor and asked about previous co-ops and went to talk to them specifically at Unicure to make sure they loved what they did and that what I was told during the interview is actually what was being done at the company in terms of the role I was going into. So I connected with two previous co-ops. I also connected with other people at my previous internship to make sure that I was really choosing the right choice for me and not just picking a co-op just to have a co-op. Uh, and talking to professors as well, just getting a more well-rounded overview. And after co-op, that's when I created my LinkedIn. So I made sure to stay connected with a lot of people. And like I said, it kind of steered me in the route of more engineering management rather than chemi because I knew I wanted to do my master's regardless. And so then I was really proactive. I joined the Galante program, which is an engineering business program. So I will graduate with a business certificate, and that really expanded my professional network in terms of meeting like-minded students, but also having a more leadership roles and connecting with people in industry, whether that's with startups that are deal with venture capital. I didn't even know what venture capital was before the program, or also connecting with people who just have more standard jobs in industry and pharma or and things like that. So I would say post co-op definitely expanded my network to people that I never thought I would meet otherwise. But it really opened me up to being more open-minded toward roles that I wouldn't have traditionally considered otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's true, right? From the second that you step on campus at Northeastern until you graduate, you're constantly networking. And co-op just makes it light years ahead, which is so amazing. Um, Now, Karthik, you're based in Arlington. Were you looking for co-ops specific to that area, or were you not geographically bound?
Yeah, I didn't have any specific geographic location I was looking for, but yeah, I attended many events that are happening in the DMV area, Arlington areas. So just to network, but I didn't have any specific. I was applying for all over place.
And how about the others? Were you looking to stay in, are you all based in the Boston area, I think, right? All other three. Were you looking to stay in Boston or were you open to go anywhere?
I'm locked in. I was like, I have a lease here. I'm good.
For me, for my first co-op, I wanted to stay in Boston. One, because I was a pretty young student and I'm also a resident assistant on campus, so my housing was covered. But afterwards, I will say it definitely opened me up to way more locations. And my following internship, during my senior year, I went to New Jersey, which I'm from New Jersey, but it was in a completely different part of New Jersey than I'm from. So, definitely expanded my geographic locations.
Great. And how about you, Cassidy?
Yeah, oh, sorry. My first co-op search, I was pretty open to any location. I felt like, why limit yourself? And I ended up actually getting a remote co-op, um, which is fun because I got to hang back in Florida, where I'm from, a little bit more. Got to enjoy the beach a little bit longer in July and August. My second co-op, because it was my senior year, I was pretty adamant about staying in the Boston area. Um, I did get an offer in New Jersey that was very enticing, but I ultimately decided to stay in the area, and I'm glad I did.
And speaking of offers, it sounds like all of you walked away from your co-ops with pretty strong connections and potential, if not actual offers on the table. Can you tell me about, is there anything during the part of your co-op where those conversations were happening? How did you guys arrive to that offer? Was it employer initiated? Were you asking about it? Tell me a little bit about that. Isabella, why don't we start with you?
I will say, I think because I was only like halfway through my studies, it wasn't necessarily a conversation I was thinking about, nor did it really come up. I would say that at the end of my co-op, they were really adamant, stay connected if you need a job, like, or if you need any recommendations, make sure to reach out. Like, we're here as a resource. But for my co-op itself, it wasn't that much of a conversation. I will say, um, industry now is a little bit more competitive, considering that I'm looking for full time, but those connections have really served me well. I've gotten a lot of recommendations from people from my co-op because even though they're not hiring right now, they've been tremendous in helping me find other companies that align well.
Cassidy, how about you?
Yeah, so I actually got returns from both of my co-ops. My first one, they knew I wasn't graduating right away, but they were like, "Hey, connect on LinkedIn, reach out if you ever need anything." And they ended up calling me after I already accepted a full-time offer at Draper. And Draper was my preference anyway, so it worked out. But at Draper, it was the discussion, it was kind of timid, I honestly. The person who hired me, he would just catch me in the lunchroom and be like, "So are you gonna do grad school? Like, what are you thinking?" And I'm like, I can't, I haven't decided on that yet. Like maybe eventually, but not right now." Um, and I had a number of mentors at Draper, and they were just like, "We'd love to have you on the team." And there was a separate like co-op manager who would check in on us on a weekly basis. And I saw her as more of the bridge to that. So I just asked her about the process. Actually, she guided me on how to do that and the proper steps that needed to be taken and such.
You all have mentioned the word mentors. Mentors during your co-op. Do they stay mentors after your co-op? What does that look like, Mallory?
Yeah, so something interesting is like I had like my supervisor, and I'm still in contact with him. I'm actually applying for like this consulting workshop, and he's like it's kind of similar thing where he said we would love to have you back, but also happy to write you a letter of rec and recommend you for things like that. So he's been really wonderful with that and initiate a lot of conversations asking like what I want to do in my career, and then taking the time to introduce me and put me in spaces and places to meet people who have that current position or could help introduce me to those people. And then additionally, leaders provides you with like an industry mentor as well outside of that company, where you can kind of like, if there's any issues or anything that you want to talk about like working in industry, you have kind of a third party to like mentor and talk you through things. So that's like another like benefit of the leaders program is they like literally like give you a person who's usually a Northeastern grad, which is really cool.
Wow, that's so unique actually. It's incredible. Karthik, how about you? Did you stay in touch with your mentors?
Yeah, I have. During my time in co-op, my manager was really supportive. He was guiding me wherever I needed any guidance, and my teammates were also awesome. I'm in touch with my teammates, not so much with my manager. So yeah, I still stay in touch with them. I chat with them often. Yeah.
That's great. A few other questions in the chat. One was just describe the co-op, right? Which is, and how is it different than an internship? So, for those of you that may not know, so Northeastern is renowned, known for its co-op program. We have the oldest co-op program in the nation, and it actually started in the College of Engineering with four initial companies. And so, over time, we've established a network of over 4,500 employers, both within the United States, in Canada, and around the globe. And so students come in, and the undergrad, you can take up to three co-ops. As a master's and a PhD student, you can do one co-op. A co-op is about 4, 6, or 8 months. And as you're hearing through all of our amazing panelists today, they are not internships in the sense of sitting at the front desk and getting coffee. A co-op is working as an engineer, and the goal is to A, develop your employer network, B, get hands-on experience where, as Isabella had said, connecting that classroom theory into the industry practice and really gaining experience as an engineer so that you graduate with a master's or a PhD and you say, hey, I not only have my master's or my PhD, but I also have 8 months of industry experience. By the way, a lot of times it's paid, which our students love because it helps with tuition. So for those of you who are asking about tuition support, co-ops aren't always paid. It's not a guaranteed, but a lot of times it is and can certainly help with the expenses. Students have to have completed 16 credits on ground in order to do a co-op. So that means that you do your first 2 semesters on ground. You take 4 courses, and then either second going into your third semester or third going into your fourth semester is generally when our students do a co-op. Um, International students on an F1 visa, you absolutely have to have at least one course remaining in your program. You cannot go directly into co-op and then graduate. You have to have at least one course remaining. Okay, so do all grad students take the Intro to Co-op course? Yes, all grad students have to take the Intro to Co-op course. Um, do you guys recommend taking that in the first or the second semester? Does it not matter? What do you think?
So leaders is nice because it's offered year round. I would say take it earlier as soon as you possibly can. That makes sense in your schedule so that you have more opportunities. You don't want to miss out on something just because you didn't take it earlier.
Yeah. Isabella, you mentioned career fairs. Can you tell me a little bit more about them? Were they on campus, or were they around the Boston area? And then how did you use those to make the connections for co-op?
I think Cassidy was the one that mentioned career
Sorry.
fairs, but I will say I also went to career fairs. Northeastern hosts career fairs, which was really helpful. I actually just went to the most recent one to connect with employers for full time, but they are also recruiting for internships, co-ops, whatever you might need, they're recruiting for. Um, but I only went to the Northeastern ones. I also I guess there were some clubs on campus. Like I was a member of Society Hispanic Professional Engineers. So they did like smaller scale where they would bring in like maybe 3 or 4 employers and you can connect with them. But that was a little bit more casual. So that was what that process looked like for me. But I guess Cassie can kind of add more on.
Sorry, Cassidy.
No, all good. I think you covered that really well, Isabella. But my first career fair where I got my first co-op, it was actually a virtual one. Again, I started undergrad online. It was really weird, interesting process. I'm glad that that's less of a thing now. But I actually applied to the co-op beforehand, and then I specifically went to their like online wait list, and I was like, hey, I already applied. I want you to kind of have a face to that application. And they seemed like kind of taken aback by that. They were like, oh wow, you already applied. So I think that like left a good impression. Um, but actually now as a full-time employee, I've had the opportunity to attend career fairs at Northeastern on the other side. So um, I really do like interfacing face to face with the like prospective students and such. So I think it's always worth the opportunity if you're able to attend just to get some again face-to-face interactions, see what opportunities are available. And it kind of gives you a feel for the company, I think, as well, to talk to actual employees.
Great. You're all super involved on campus. And I know that's a thing for undergrad. I also think it's important to note for all of our prospective students how important it is to also be involved in your grad life as well outside of academics, right? Clubs, organizations. Do you feel that your involvements there helped to either build your network or find your co-ops or make connections? Can you tell me a little bit about how some of those involvements may have shaped this entire experience, Mallory?
Yeah, so I served on our grad student council for chemical engineering. I was the president, which had me be in meetings with our industry advisory panel to provide feedback on what our work looks like so that they can better build out our programming to make them suitable for industry jobs. So I got to meet with a ton of Northeastern grads, mostly undergrad alumni, not a whole lot of grad student alumni. And so I was able to be put in contact with people who do hiring and things like that and kind of just do some informational interviews with them, learn more, as well as connect them with the leaders program because they're always looking for new partnerships. And someone works for like Jackson Labs, which supplies a ton of stuff for labs, and they do like a bunch of existing internships. It kind of just got me involved with a lot of different alumni as well as people within like the front office of our department. So just having those kind of networks and putting yourself in places where people know you, they're going to think of you first when opportunities kind of arise. So it's a good opportunity.
Wonderful. I think we have covered many of the questions today. One last question. Can you not do a co-op in the second semester if you take the course the first semester? That's correct. You have to complete 16 credits or 4 courses on ground. Um, how much of a difference does networking make? I've heard it perhaps works better than just applying more referrals and conversions. I think we would absolutely unanimously agree that networking is the key to success. Yeah, lots of head nods from our panelists on that one. Wonderful. Well, I want to sincerely thank you all so much for joining today. This was so much fun. I always love my ambassador sessions, and I want to just thank all of our wonderful attendees. Again, so many familiar names from this week. It's been a very fun Engineers Week to celebrate with you all. If you are interested in connecting with one of our ambassadors, I will drop their website into the chat. You can connect with them. They're on all the social media platforms. They'd love to talk with you, whether you're a prospective student, an admitted student, a current student. They're just always here to chat. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And any closing words from our panelists today? Just all good. All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining us, and so look forward to reviewing applications for those of you who are applying, and a very happy National Engineers Week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.